This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jumbo, jumbo, and hello, everybody. It's a very warm welcome to our sunset drive. We are in the Masai Mara of Kenya with this herd of elephant that you can see exactly what they're doing. My name is David. Welcome aboard to a very own safari, live from the African bush. This has been an unbelievable sight. It is so cute having all these elephants in the water and swimming and just cooling themselves, and just look at that. I've had them here for the last half an hour and I have been enjoying every minute. They just finished and they just paused, and I've got a feeling they're getting some instruction from the matriarch. Look at them. There are few who never went inside the water. And remember, we love questions, comments. Please send them through to #WorldEarth on Twitter or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube channel. For the kids questions at worldearth.tv. One more time, warm welcome. My name is David, and on camera with me this afternoon is Bongay. Apart from the elephants, we also got giraffes. Just look at that. It's one spot I've put myself, and I don't think I am going anywhere. We do not see giraffes doing exactly what we saw those elephants doing. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, I am not the only one. We got other locations that will be coming to you live in other parts of Africa.
No, you are not the only one, David. You've got this beautiful grey elephant munching on some not-so-tasty brown, dry shrubs. And then, of course, you also have me. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me, as usual, is Odie. And we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve, included in the Greater Kruger. But we've just found this one young elephant bull who's feeding away from the rest of the boys. They're all very spread out today. And I think that they're exhausted because they've been swimming all day long in Ndlovu Dam. Although this one doesn't look like he actually went in, so perhaps he was one of the few that decided to not go for a dip. Helena, now, no, elephants are not domesticated in Africa, or definitely not in this day and age, from my knowledge. I could be mistaken, though. I'm sure a very, very long time ago, perhaps, but in Africa, we typically use lots of horses and donkeys and those types of things if we need to pull any carts. And we on the African continent are very good at manual labor. So we tend to do everything on our own and come up with nifty ways to make it easier for ourselves. So I'm kind of happy that the elephants are left to do their things out in the wilds of Africa. In South Africa, that's definitely not the case. The only time you'll really see them is out here in the wilderness, which is exactly what we're going to be doing today, is we're hopefully going to join David and also have some elephants swimming, but here in South Africa.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Anbion Private Game Reserve, where this afternoon we've come out to a patch of open grassland in search of cheetah, and we have stumbled across these two white rhino having quite a lazy Wednesday afternoon. My name is Matt, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Craig, and yeah, these two behind us are, I think, just enjoying a rest this afternoon. The one on the right-hand side, if we zoom in a little bit closer on its face, has white ash on its face, which you can see where it's been lying from. Belle, you're asking how rhino communicate with one another through all different senses. They've got quite a high-pitched squeal that they use to communicate with one another, as well as scent marking and things like that they obviously use dominant bulls to mark their territories, and that's all them communicating with other males in the area to know that there's another bull, or dominant bull at least, in the area. But often if they're fighting, it's I'm not very good at mimicking such noises, but a very high-pitched, I want to say is exactly that, a squeal that they use to communicate with one another. Quite something to hear, because not the sound that you'd imagine coming from something as big as a rhino. There's one of those puff of clouds of dust that we spoke about earlier. This area also recently burnt. There's already some greenery starting to pop through with a little bit of rain that we've had, which these white rhino, I can imagine, are quite fond of. But the patch of shade that tree was providing for them has now shifted. The sun's moved further to the west. You can see they're starting to get a little bit restless, kicking up a little bit more of that ash below them. A couple of red bull oxpeckers also on their backs. And not on a day like today, it's still quite hot but quite windy, so where they are, they're probably staying quite cool. Not caked in mud that you would typically imagine them to be, but full of scratches along their back. So in the areas that they probably were maybe earlier this morning, it is still quite windy. They're moving through thicker areas, would have gotten a couple of scratches on that very thick skin of theirs, and I wonder if a little bit later they won't venture off to a watering hole just nearby. But for now I might leave them in peace and see what else we can find out here.
Well, there's one major difference between the skins of rhinos and elephants. If you look at elephant skins, they're always very wrinkled. And I've always thought they're wrinkled, number one, to increase the surface area, so that could help in cooling. You see how they keep flapping their ears. But also, number two, it would also help hold moisture. Now, this is the same herd of elephants we were watching earlier, having a bath and swimming in a small little stream there. So any water that they have picked, or that's on the skin, the wrinkled hide will be able to hold it for a long time and help them in cooling. Tasha, you're asking how long can an elephant go without drinking water? Tasha, I'll tell you, to be honest, I have no idea. But I'm sure they would survive for a couple of days. I do not think anybody has worked out that. But we may say they may not drink the physical water like what we just saw them, where they were, or going to a lake or a river or a stream or some other water point. Because we also know from the food they eat, it usually have so much moisture, and they may live without drinking the actual liquid water and depend on the vegetation. Now look at that elephant grass there, Tasha. It's what partly they're feeding on. And they're heading to the bushes in front of them. And most of what they feed, the leaves, the twigs, the tree barks, the cambium of trees, will always have some moisture, a certain percentage that may supplement to them without actually drinking the liquid water. See how dark now they look? Unlike the normal color of elephants that we know of. It's just because they were swimming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember, we're coming to you live from different parts or locations of Africa. I am in the Masai Mara.
It's amazing how elephants can drink lots of water at one go. Now here we have Nile crocodile live coming here from the Mara River. Now, my name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Look at what we have here. Beautiful Masai Mara River. This is a place where I call sometimes the Blood River. Lots of migratory animals, the wildebeest and zebras, sometimes get killed here, trampled and drowned here. Now, the Nile crocodile is the conspicuous or the common crocodile within Kenya. Now, look at the one to the left. That is a gigantic one. And the one to the right, that's a small one. I tell you, that one can be up to about 4.5 or maybe 5 meters. Nile crocodiles are known up to grow to a length of even up to 7 or 8 meters. Now, when the crocodiles age, they tend to be darker. So say the one with a little slightly yellowish, more pale, is a bit younger than the one to the left. Now, these two are sunning, they're warming up, and then later on when it cools down,
Well, we managed to find the elephants. This is where we were actually headed before we were, well, I suppose we had a roadblock, didn't we, with that young elephant bull. But at Pridelands, of course, this is the land of the elephants, really. We're so spoiled. And we're at a watering hole that I haven't spent much time at for a very long time. We're at Leopard Dam now with a breeding herd of elephants, big and small. There's quite a few boys here too. But unfortunately, we have missed them having a bit of a swim. You can see a lot of them are covered. There's still one just down over there, a youngster, that's still having a little bit of a wallow, as you can see. Hello. You don't want to get out of the water just yet. You can see that little one is just having the best time.
Alright, very good afternoon to everybody. Beautiful ostrich moving over here. Good afternoon, my name is Carl, behind the camera is David, and welcome to the vast and wonderful landscape of Tswalu Kalahari. Beautiful male ostrich, nice dark plumage, strutting his stuff for us. Look how big and powerful those legs are. Very impressive bird. Those legs being able to propel that bird at 70 plus kilometers an hour. Very impressive on 2 legs. Still got feathers, so it is still categorized as a bird. Obviously defining factor for these beautiful feathered friends of mine. And when it comes to birds, behavior like that and adaptations are really interesting on how they survive. Multiple habitats across the world. Very incredible. Alright, he's going to go off, so we're going to go off. We're going to head a little bit further southwest this afternoon, and we're going to try and look for Cape fox and a bat-head fox. So fingers crossed we get lucky. Alright.
The elephant that is now rubbing on the tree because of... So there's a net on top there for weavers. Now I don't know if they have chicks or anything inside there, but every time that elephant rubs up on that tree, you can see it's not quite stable. And they're going to get a rude awakening if there's anybody in there. Odie described it as they might be seasick. It's quite funny though, but he's gone off. But now they've coated that tree completely in mud. And that's sometimes what happens, is that the elephants end up pushing trees down like that because that tree is no longer living. But there they all go. They're pretty much just finishing up now. Last little mud wallow, and then covering themselves with sand to keep themselves nice and cool. Now, Reese, perfect timing. It's like you can read my mind. You've asked, what is the benefits of mud bathing? Well, if you ever get the chance, I highly recommend it. But essentially, all that mud on an elephant is going to help keep it nice and cool. So obviously, elephants can try and cool themselves down. Their ears are essentially like a radiator in a car. They are filled with lots of blood vessels. The skin is very, very thin, and by flapping them, they'll cool down their bloodstream directly, which then cools their entire body. But sometimes that's just not enough. And drinking water, of course, will help. So well, I suppose these animals are lucky. They can just go straight into the water. They're capable swimmers. But then to keep cool afterwards, it's nice to cake all that mud on your body. But it's not just for that. They will also cover any parasites, any ticks and mites and things that are living on them. And that will suffocate them, and those parasites will then die. There's quite a few out in the open to the left, if you want, that are playing as well. We don't have to necessarily look straight through the twigs. Yeah, just under that bird bean. There we go. That's probably a better view. And they're also having a bit of a tussle. And so not only does it keep it cool, helps with parasites, and then, of course, it's just a great moisturizer, isn't it? Have you ever put mud on your face and then washed it off? My goodness, your skin feels so soft and smooth. No, I'm joking. The elephants really don't care about that. That's not a problem for them at all. But they do enjoy it. These guys look like they've kind of just thrown the mud straight onto their backs. But every now and then, if you're really, really lucky, you can see lots of elephants. And it's really funny to see the really big bulls roll around in the mud. Georgina, I love your question. Now, you're only just 6 years old and you've asked why are elephants grey? Well, I suppose that's the colour that they normally are, hey? They were made that way. I don't think there's any specific reason, but typically if you are brown or shades of grey, you blend into the vegetation very, very easy, so you can hide away a lot. Yes, Georgina, even a big elephant like this can hide away. Can you believe it? But sometimes you get elephants and they look like they're different colours. Like, look at these guys. These are brown and grey. And every now and then you'll get elephants that look like they're red too. So I suppose an elephant can change its colour depending on what colour soil it throws over its body.
An elephant changing its colors. Very nice. So en route, we thought we just had to stop and show you guys a magnificent specimen of a camel thorn. That is a beautiful, beautiful tree. Obviously well adapted. We've spoken about their very extensive root structures that allow them to tap into the underground water that's available for a long period after rains have fallen. But a really spectacular specimen to be looking at. And a very incredible thing is that you can see that there's a defined line of vegetation from the ground. If you go up, you can see that strip of green is dead straight. It looks like it's been pruned, and it has. It's actually been pruned by browsing animals, and that's the height at which the highest animal, which would be an eland, would be browsing off the tree. So they play a vital role in pruning and eliminating parts of the tree. That also stimulates growth, but quite an amazing sight to see this pruned and straight line being displayed with this tree. A very big one. Oh, this chap could be over 30, 40, 50 years old. Really, really old. They can live for a long time. And a spectacular tree within this area, and something that we really hold truly close to our hearts.
And this is one of those trees, but apparently as much as it looks dry and dead, it is still standing. And why we hold them close to our heart is because many birds, many raptors use them to camouflage, to hunt. How wonderful is that? Now, I got a question for all of you. we have that raptor or bird of prey that you're seeing there. Please look at her carefully and tell me, who do you think this is? You can answer me, hashtag World Earth on Twitter, or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. The kids can also try by sending us an email, kidsquestions@worldearth.tv. And because you're always wonderful viewers, I want to give you some clues. Number one, look at the end of the beak. It's very sharp and it's hooked. Number two, and this will be the last clue, it is an eagle. I'm not sure whether the director in the final control is happy with my clues, or maybe she wants me to give one more last clue, but it must be the last one. Ha ha ha. All right, she tells me to give one more clue. Okay, I'm going to obey my director in the final control, and the last clue I'm going to give you, it is a snake, eagle. And honestly, that's it. Look at the sharp hooked beak. 1, 2 is an eagle. 3, well, he's a snake eagle. They normally eat snakes. I'll be waiting to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, we are coming to you live from the Masai Mara.
Look who we've got. It's my favorite friend, a naughty elephant by the name of Susan. Sorry, I have to reprimand this elephant all the time. See? You just pretending. No. Elephants. Now we've got a cheeky bull who's come right up behind her and is barging her out of the way. Excuse us. Thank you. We also would like to view the other animals today. Can you not do that literally on top of my vehicle? He is now using her as a rubbing post, and she is very much obliged. Of course, we did not think we were going to get ourselves into this situation. Oi! All of you, I'll start the car. Susan, I'm just riding back a little bit. Yeah, but you did that. Why did you let him use you as a rubbing post? I mean, that's not ideal. Also, elephant, there's plenty of trees that you could use to do that. So, obviously, after a mud bath, you can imagine they're quite itchy, and they do like to rub up, typically on trees that have got this nice fissured bark. So it's a very rough sort of texture. Susan apparently has not had enough of a mud bath, so her skin is as rough as the trunk of a tree. Sorry, girl. Anyway, she's a cheeky young cow that I've been watching for quite some time now, and she likes to perform for us. She gets a bit naughty every now and then, but she's really settled down. Like, look at this. I don't know why she wants to do handstands, which is quite ridiculous. But anyways, I'm really thankful that I get to watch this elephant and her antics every single day.
Now back to our crocodiles. They're still relaxed by the river. Like I was mentioning earlier, they warm up and then later on in the evening, they will go back into the water. Now I want to talk about camouflage. Big James is going to pan to another crocodile that is just by the rocks. Now this is interesting because you might think rock or croc. Look at how he blends in so well. Now when this one comes into camouflage, it's really hard sometimes for animals to tell if the crocodiles are there. And that is one way they Mona, thank you so much for your question. Now, crocodiles are cold-blooded, so they need to warm during the day, and then they'll be coming into water later on in the evening. The reason why they're basking into the sun. So crocodiles have nerves that are on the lower and upper mandible, just to the tips, which really act as heater plugs. Now, during the heat of the day, they'll open their mandibles upward, so the nerves will heat and they retain that heat and warm their bodies when they get into the water. So crocodiles are cold-blooded. Now, this Mara River flows. This river flows all the way down to Lake Victoria. And I tell you, this river has fed many, including people and wildlife.
It does indeed. The Mara River is most certainly one of the most incredible destinations that I've managed to spend time in my life, and there's so much that relies off of that river. But something else that relies off water is elephants. And as you can see, we've got a nice herd of them. My name is Tristan. On camera, I have got BK this afternoon. Always nice to be with BK. And we're with a herd. I'm trying to find a specific group of elephants this afternoon. So we've been tracking Ellie's so far, trying to find a special herd. Now, it's a very large herd, and the reason why it's special is because there's a certain female in that herd called Fang. Now, Fang is an elephant, much like this elephant that you see here, that has a unique tusk growth. And her tusk is very, very long, and it grows back towards her knee. And this particular elephant has not been around for quite a long time. But the reason why she's special is because, well, for me personally, is that we had the most insane sighting with this elephant in 2017, where it seemed like she had a miscarriage, and she basically just walked with us as we kind of moved, and she stuck close to the car, and then she started to go around the car being chased by a bull. And it was just the most insane interaction with a wild elephant that I probably have ever had. And so she holds a very, very, very special place in my heart. And so I'm hoping that I can find her because, well, it's been a long time since I last saw her. In fact, I saw her very, very briefly back in February, but prior to that, it was almost a year and a half since I'd seen her. So if we can find her somewhere here, it's going to be really, really nice because ultimately, you know, we want a situation where we can spend a little bit of, or a prolonged period of time with her. The problem is we're heading towards our northern boundary now, which is not ideal. So Sophia, who's 6 years old, it's always nice when we get the younger generation asking lots of questions. So kids, if you're watching, ask away. Sophia, how fast do elephants run? Well, Sophia, faster than you and I can run, unfortunately. So if you're going to be chased by an elephant, it's not a good thing. But an elephant at sort of top speed, and depending on obviously the terrain, would probably be doing about 30 kilometers an hour, 35 kilometers an hour if it really was pushing it, which is faster than, like I say, than you or I could run. So they're pretty quick animals. They're animals that cover ground much faster than most realize. What I think, though, is I think we're at the back end of the herd. I don't think we are in the front end of the herd. I think we've got all the young bulls and one female with her cow. So what I'm going to try and do is try and see if I can get a little bit further forward and see if I can pick up the rest. I'm pretty confident that it is the same grouping because they've come, well, these guys' tracks came from where they were seen earlier today. So hopefully we'll have a bit of luck.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anbion Pinda, where we have managed to find, I think, probably my favorite cheetah on this reserve. These two young males. And I say that just because of their story. As you can see now, they're quite sort of content in the shade of this quarry bush, or eucalyptus, next door to us. But as we arrived up to them, there were two warthogs that actually alerted us to their presence, that ran initially in their direction, and then when they caught wind of them, turned and hightailed it in the opposite direction. But these two, I say special because at around 7 months old, Their mom was killed by lions, not nearly at the age where they can fend for themselves. But around that time of year, 2018, when November, December, when impalas are having their lambs, wildebeest, their calves, and these two were found a couple of months later with bellies bursting at the seams. And they, since then, have had quite an interesting story. We've had to help them once or twice because they've had altercations with other coalitions of males in this reserve, which have left them in, I want to say, dire straits, but we managed to get them back to health, and now they, or at least these two, have established themselves in the very far western part of this reserve, or the southwestern part of this reserve. So an amazing story behind them, and you can see now in and out of consciousness that two of them fast asleep, but it's still really hot this afternoon. But I can only imagine a little bit later when it cools off, they might get up and look to move. We passed another watering hole now that was a hive of activity with impala and the likes. So maybe we might see something happen a little bit later. One slightly darker than the other. But I'm really hoping that we get to see them not lying in this long grass, extremely well camouflaged in this long grass. That being said, I mean, we drove past earlier and saw nothing. I think if it wasn't for those cheetah who, the warthog, beg your pardon, who ran past earlier, we might have not seen them at all. Stephen, you're asking how fast a cheetah can run. I think they've been clocked in at about 116 kilometers an hour, which is ridiculously quick. And yeah, that they obviously can't maintain for very long. 300-400 meters before they are extremely sort of flat and have to recharge, and it takes them about half an hour to catch their breath again fully. But yeah, 116 odd 70 miles per hour is how quickly these cheetah can fast, and every last bit of detail of them is built for speed, from their short whiskers to that tapered tail that acts as a rudder.
So we've managed to find my favorite elephant again. They're on the go though. They're just marching through a sort of wooded area, and it's very difficult to try and keep up with them. And there are not that many roads that cut across. Oh, she's coming back again. Thank goodness. I was wondering what on earth I was going to go and do without her if I couldn't see her for 2 minutes. But she's such a funny girl. Now, for those of you that have never experienced elephants in real life, like as in on a vehicle, in the wilderness with these creatures, and especially greater Kruger elephants, I highly recommend it because there's just something so special about these animals, and I hope that you can feel the connection through your screen. I hope she carries on coming this way. I'm really, really happy to see, though, that this elephant has calmed down a fair amount. Now, Chad, it's quite exceptional how elephants and also giraffe and even black rhino and things like that typically feed on thorny vegetation. So it's not just the elephants, but the elephants have got the thickest skin of them all. So basically, their skin around their mouth is very, very tough. Their tongues are quite tough too. But if you watch them, look at her. See, she's actually got a thorn tree stuck to her leg now. Look how carefully she pulls it off. I don't think it necessarily hurts her. Maybe it feels like when we get a thorn tree hooked to your long trousers or something like that. She's not enjoying it though. Maybe it is a bit sore. But essentially they'll eat quite delicately around it. I need to watch her. Hi, girl. So it's not too bad. And the older they get, the tougher their mouth gets, and they get sort of used to feeding this. Now, I do apologize if my head bumps into frame every now and then. I do need to sit up and watch her. And the reason why is because she's quite unpredictable. She's very temperamental at the moment. So I just need to make sure that I constantly have eyes on her and all the other elephants, because she likes to cause trouble. She'll rally the other elephants up and make them think that I've done something wrong. No, don't be ugly. Susan, you don't need to break sticks and then flare your ears at me. It's unnecessary. Haven't gone too far. They're still just on the move. Now, Fazia, that's a difficult one to answer. So Fazia has just asked, what should your response be? I'm assuming when you're in a vehicle. What should your response be to a herd or to an aggressive herd of elephants? So every situation is kind of different, but Fazia, from my personal experience, when a breeding herd, when the cows, the females, when they tell me that they are unhappy with them, I move away. I get out of their pathway. I don't want to ever block in an elephant, and you should never block any animal in. Remember, no animal really wants to hurt you out here, but if you do pin them in a space where they haven't got much room to go, they might either accidentally run into your car or then, have an aggressive attack towards you. So if you can avoid doing that, then you should be okay. But say you got yourself into a situation where you didn't have anywhere to go, and perhaps you had people that were blocking you in. I would just pull off the road as far as possible. But if you could get and move away very slowly from them, give them the room that they're asking you to give them, then do that. You don't want to stand up to an upset cow. Remember, they're very protective and they've got lots of little ones to look after.
It's best that you give the big mommy right of way. Something hidden in a bush. Once David's going to get in there nice and close, and I want you guys to see if you can spot. Oh, it just moved. Hello, Mr. Rabbit. Actually a hare, not a rabbit. This is a Cape hare. We have two species of hare on Tswalu. This one over here, the Cape hare, and then another one referred to as the scrub hare. Slight difference in color. This one having a little bit of a reddish tinge, and the scrub hare being a little bit more grey in appearance. Look how large those ears are. Very big eyes. Ears are very important for thermoregulatory functions, so the animal actually cools itself down with those ears. And if you can see in picture, you can see this very large vein in the central part of the ear, where blood will be rushing through that ear, and the ears are used somewhat like a radiator to disperse and let off heat. But these little guys will have little resting spots under bushes, and they have what I refer to from a marine background, they refer to them as home scars. So a spot that this little hare would come back to every time. And it's been used for so long that the ground will actually have an imprint of the hare, so that when the hare sits on this little spot, all it needs to do is tuck its ears back and it basically disappears within the undergrowth. Very, very nice to see. Predominantly nocturnally active. We just saw it now because it actually moved from one bush to another. But really special animal to see, especially through the daylight hours. At night time, obviously, you don't get really good views for it. The car headlights really disturb it. Napchik, what is the difference between a hare and a rabbit? Very good question. Hares stay uniform throughout the year with their coats, whereas in rabbits actually change winter and summer coats. These guys don't go underground. They seek refuge under thick vegetation, just like you are seeing here in picture. And then a rabbit will actually go underground. They resemble each other quite closely, so getting mistaken with a hare and a rabbit is not an uncommon thing.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon from Djuma Private Game Reserve in Sabi-Saint and Lawfield. Here it's pretty much open sky with 27 degrees 80 Fahrenheit, and sitting here with this beautiful herd of elephants. And we've been tracking them for quite a while. So my name is Andrew on camera. That's Neil. So this is how we're going to be taking you into the wild live right now with this beautiful herd of elephants. So we are just lucky enough we came to this very open area. We find these tracks for the herd of these elephants across the road from the western sector of the boundary. And we checked most of the road, we couldn't find nothing. So we decided to come to this spot here where they're all just mobile, enter this open area. It looks like it's actually a big herd here, and this is how they operate. So mainly elephants, they are social animals, and for them to form this beautiful herd, it's all related. There's mothers and aunties, sisters, and there is young brothers within this group. And this is what formed the herd of elephants. Then it should be an matriarch, which it's a leader in this group, where every time she decides where to take them. Makara, welcome to the show. You want to know how long its female elephant pregnant for. So elephants are pregnant for 2 years almost, 22 months. So it's actually, for such a big animal, it's understandable. But of course, if we are a human being caring for that long, it wouldn't really make it for us. And of course, they are not seasonal breeder. They give birth all year round, mainly during the wet season, and they still breed. As you can see, there's quite a few young ones in this herd here, and this is actually able to tell us this animal, they are not seasonal, so they're all year round breeder. We're looking at the female that she just walking right, in this open area. Got to be quite a few of the females in this group, I can tell you, because mainly they don't really associate with the males. Those males that they're already 10 years, 14 years, they get pushed out of this group by their mother. In that case, they have to find their father, their uncles out there, and then they're mobile with them. In that case, also they have to pay.
Well, so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. These issues once in a while will happen, and we get the technical hitches, but we always do the best we can to come back alive. But in the meantime, from a very long distance, I thought I saw some cats on top of that Taman Mound, on a positive note of the gremlins. But on a closer look, they are mongooses. And those are what you call the abandoned mongoose. And those are the striped mongoose. And what I'm looking at is whether below that Taman Mound there's anything else. But things were just big gang, a big colony of the mongoose there and not actually what I thought to be cats. We're just confirming that to be sure. And I do not think, yeah, but you can see how busy the mongooses are there. They're always moving up and down. And not very far from there, yesterday we saw Romy. Romy is a leopardess in this particular area. And I also want to venture in that area to look for her. Because apparently I saw her 2 cubs yesterday. That was last night. Who knows? We could be lucky to see her again. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, we're coming to you live from Africa. And currently I am in the Masai Mara.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anbion Pinda, where these 2 young male cheetah are still quite happy in their spots. You can see they're wide awake. Cheetah being the most vulnerable of the big cats, often just sort of nod off and then they're wide awake just to make sure that the area around them is safe of other predators. Things like lions, not so much leopards out here in the open, but if there are lions around here, because they hunt the same prey, lions will try and get rid of that competition. Even other coalitions of males, they have to be really wary of. So they're constantly very vigilant and just looking out. Very windy as well this afternoon. So still lying in a shady patch. I can imagine it's getting quite cool for them where they are in the shade together with this wind. But in and out of consciousness, and I think that's where that expression catnaps come from, is from them. You can see them fast asleep and then wide awake again. That one that you saw in picture, almost like when we nod off and you're sitting somewhere and then you almost jerk your head awake. That's exactly what they do sometimes. They must have incredibly strong necks as well, just with the way that they're resting their heads on their necks. I'm going to stick around here for a while, just because I think that they might move in the next while. I'm not too sure when these 2 last ate. So to see them on the move again would be quite exciting.
Beautiful. We're back with this herd of elephants again in this area. We haven't actually moved, but looks like there's more of them. They're going to come from our western side. That's where we can look at that female. It's got to be more of them. It's quite a bushes and the road across them there, but they're all going to, looks like we're all going to be surrounded. But, it's very interesting. These animals, they all cooperate and they all communicate. Some of them, we've seen them already march past this open area. And then there are more of them, there's still to come, which is how they move around. You find a separated part. You find 1, 3 females sometimes taking care of 3 different babies, which are not theirs. And they're all good at that. And they were able to make sure these, young ones also drink. If she are lactating also, she'll let the rest of them drink milk for, this is how they take care. We see lions in the pride do the same, and not many animals can do that. So elephants are capable of well taking care in one group. Ian, welcome to the shore. Hope you're all right there. So elephants at night, you see the... Sorry about that. So the elephants during the day, there is a lot of sunlight, of course, and then that's humid. Also directly sun heat penetrates through their body And that's far too much for them to be able to handle that. That's where you see them go down to the water, wallow in the mud, but also swim and they come out, cool off. And then again, but at night you see where there's no sunshine. So they would actually, when they want to, they can swim, they can contact with water, but then they feel free because then the temperature drop down pretty much, and that's how they cool themselves. But also they have to reduce movement so that they don't really, get exhausted during their movement. Look at this young one, I don't know what it's running into, probably just practicing. And what I just heard, it looks like there's more of a contact calling, probably the mother, that's where the baby running into. There's nothing chasing it, so it's so that you feel maybe isolated, and then that's why you're running into the mother. So you just hear that kind of like growl. I mean, there's a lot of rumbling. It was all about contact. So they all know each other, which area they operate, and of course we've been here a lot of rumbling here. It's all about communications. And this one, they're right in the shade. So every time they move, since they have matriarch, if she's leading right in front of them, and they're all just going to follow behind. And then also, wait in the shade like this is also one of the, during the day, cooling off. But see them rolling in the mud, and as you look at the skin, it's very wrinkled. Miley, welcome to the show. You want to know how old and what age, or how old the elephant, young baby elephant, will able to break the tree trunk from that age. So we're looking at that young one there. It's probably just a year or above year old. And then it will able to, break the small trees, not a bigger tree, but these short branches tree will able to make it or break it off. But once they are 4 years old, this is when now they will able to do more, lot of feeding on very hard trees and branches, but also pulling off the small plants for probably, roots and everything like that. So around 3-4 years, they're actually strong enough that they can able to, break the big tree. And then very powerful animals, this trunk and also the tuskers, as you can see, they're all starting to come out there. So it's better with the elephant having a tuskers, because this is how now they're able to help a trunk able to feed comfortably. Talking about breaking branches there, if they only have a trunk, they will find themselves very difficult. I was looking at this female, I don't know, look at this tuskers growing across. I don't know if I ever seen this herd here. Probably new for me. Well, they're not territorial. They can move in and out of this reserve, across the border back to Kruger Park, Manyeleti, which is a northern border for us. So they could be from there or far south of here. But very interesting that little tuskers are growing in that female. Look at this one. So this type of bushes they look like an evergreen, but they're guari bush, which is, elephants love it so much. As you can see, this young one already, we were talking about breaking branches since so young. This is actually one of the evidence that young one shows us. It can already start to break softer branches, able to feed on itself. Now, just looking at them, there is not much of a flapping the ears when I look at them. Only the bigger one. This one, because maybe just come out of the shade. So a lot of time when it's too much far hot for them, able to flap their ears, and that's how they cool themselves. Well, I'm gonna wait here and see if they all come out. Otherwise, I'm gonna make my way out, look for anything else.
Wonderful, Andrew. And I'm sure Andrew's elephants can or would remind you of the elephants we had earlier when we started the show. I moved on and I came to a different area. This area, we call it the marsh area because you can see all the birds you're seeing in the background there. And areas that will have a lot of water also have lots of birds that will want to be in the water, either feeding, mainly feeding. And that's why we have all those egrets that you're seeing from a distance right there. And some of them are the Hadada ibis. We got hammercops. We got sacred ibis is there. We also got stocks. This is an area that's loved by different species of birds. And if you look carefully, you can see the amount of water in that particular area. Now, if you look carefully, you do not see a single elephant anywhere there. And the reason for that, when it rains so much, because we have been getting lots of rains in the Masai Mara the last few days, if the elephants spend so much time in the water, they get what we call foot rot. In the background, you can also two cranes that you call, yes, two cranes at the back there, the grey cranes. So the grey crown cranes in the background. There's some stocks there, open-bill stocks. We've got the great egrets. We've got the sacred ibis. But not as many mammals because this water is not very good for the mammals. Kirsty, good question. And you're asking, do all these birds you see here eat the same prey? I would say yes, and a very big yes, because most of them are feeding on any invertebrates that are in there. Amphibians, think of frogs, think of crabs, think of water scorpions, water spiders. That's all what they are feeding on. Some of them will be catching worms in there. Crown cranes, though, that are on the side, they could be eating, they are more of omnivores, and they could be eating both any invertebrates and also, I would say, seeds or grass blades in there. And it's always wonderful when we answer your questions or we get your comments. And it cannot be better when you know we are coming from 6 different locations in Africa. And the good news, we come to you live and every day.
Greetings everyone, and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. Now we have a lioness over there. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Welcome aboard your evening safari. And this is what we have around here. Now, that lioness belongs to the Mugoro Pride. She has decided to take a rest. She had tried to hunt a little bit earlier, but with no success. Now she's by the river. I've heard her making a soft roar, calling her sister. Not sure where the sister has gone to. So now we're trying to get closer, but it's impossible to get near where she is. Look at how she keeps on looking around and round because the sister went to the other side. We have lots of wildebeest gathered around here. Not sure if they will cross the river or not, but this is not the crossing point. Actually, this is where the Mugoro Pride resides. Now, a little bit earlier, there's lots of zebras. Sam, thank you so much for your question. When is the best time for lions to hunt? So the preferred time for lions to hunt is at night because it's cool and lions get to see much better, more than humans at night. So their vision is better at night and it's also cooler. in the night. She looks a bit lazy and worn out because she had tried to hunt a little bit earlier. Now we're going to wait here a little bit because it's cooling down right now, and I'm sure the activity will increase as soon as dark or dusk gets in. Because of the thicket on the long grass, we can't see the other sisters. So we'll just wait because she called to see if they will come.
Beautiful. So we're still sitting with these elephants here, where the grass is very slightly, not too much tall, where they're big animals, compared to the lions. Lions are well blended in, especially when the grass is so tall. And these specific breeding herd, they looks like the rest of them have moved separate way. But these here, as I was saying, they are, sometimes they can, split or separate from the rest, just because maybe they have a two or one bigger one, and the rest could be different age, and she was able to stick with them. But I seen this specific acacia tree, 2 weeks ago, it was been pushed down right in front of me by one of the bull elephant. Looks like they're right now investigating again, feeding on that, as you can see. Busy, trying to peel off the bark. It's probably sweet enough, and it's not dried. Now, welcome to the shore. So, baby can drink milk up to until anything from about 9 months or more than half a year, depend on where they are. So if there's a lot of nutritions, a lot of grasses, a lot of plants, and of course they grow up healthy, and then that's more likely to drink until they're year old, a year and a half, and that's roughly, but normally 8-9 months, and they're big enough to able to survive. But you still see elephants who are still actually suckling until they're a year old or a year and a half. And some can be possibly around 2 years, but they're far too far. And roughly somewhere I can put it around there. This is pretty much they can suckle for. So here we're looking at all the young one that I see here. It's all girls. And then this is how she's able to control them, take care of them. And then if there's anything here happened in terms of a safety, because we would think they're so far too big, they don't have enemies. They do have enemies, which is a lion. So lion can sneak into this little one if they're not, safe enough. So I'm gonna stay here and see what these herds do for us.
Everybody loves a baba. Look underneath the tummy of this female oryx. You're going to see something quite small. There's a little bit of vegetation in the way, but you will pick up the movement. There, its head is moving. Oh, very cute. It's under 3 months. Within the first 3 months of these antelopes' lives, they've got this tawny coloration, which obviously is right through the body plan, and that allows them to remain concealed when mom goes off and feeds, and then she'll come back at different intervals to nurse and clean. Oh, there's another little one. There's 2 babas. So somewhere in the thickets over here there must be a few more females. This would be a nursery herd or a breeding herd. And those little ones are under 3 months. And how I know that is because when they hit the 3-month mark, they start adopting their oryx colors. So that tawny coloration that you're seeing will start fading. They'll go a little bit lighter, and any.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Pinda, where we are with these two young male cheetah who are still sort of biting out the heat of the day, both fast asleep at the moment. Every so often just wake up, scan the surrounds. Actually a beautiful view from where they are here, looking further west over the plains, and I wouldn't be surprised if we lift the binoculars to have a look, we don't find something like zebra or wildebeest out there, or even something like white rhino. It is quite a windy day, so I can't imagine things will be out in the open. It obviously limits their hearing quite a bit as well, rather be in a little bit more of a sheltered spot. But you can see this male slightly darker than its brother lying up against the base of this quarry tree. Every so often just glances through the roots there as it opens its eyes. They've got the most striking eyes, these two brothers, those very, very hazel colour eyes, and I'm hoping that at some stage this afternoon they get up, and eventually when that sun dips down a little bit more, we might get to see and appreciate those eyes a little bit better. But now, like I was saying earlier, if you drive past this, we've ventured a little bit further off-road, but if we drove on that road, which we did earlier, no chance of seeing them. It was two warthog that helped us find them, ran in their general direction, and then the two of them popped their heads up, which we were then able to find them. But otherwise, just because this grass is so long, they blend in really, really well. Just the black tips of their ears, if anything, that you can see now, a little bit of the white underbelly of the one that's lying closest to us. Pile, you're asking how big their territory is. They have moved into and settled into the very far western part of this reserve, which is a good couple of thousand hectares wide. Well, yeah, it's a good couple thousand hectares. There are two male cheetah from, or in the south of the reserve, who a good part of 13,000 plus a little bit extra as their territory extends further into the north. And they almost on the regular will venture into areas that they haven't been seen before, which is quite interesting to see the movements on this reserve. But these two, not nearly as big. There's not as much of a reason for them to move around as the other two, who are a little bit more new to the area. But these two have settled in. There's no other competition for them here. Quite a bit of food around as well, and then obviously a couple of females that they would then be interested in. But yeah, these two, I'd say a good 5,000-6,000 hectares big. This wind is relentless this afternoon, and it's that time of year where it just doesn't hold out at all. And I'm hoping that as that sun starts to disappear over the horizon to our west, that these two will become a little bit more active and show signs of a little bit more movement.
Well, it's true. I mean, most cats, including cheetahs, once it gets warm, they tend to slow down. But as the temperatures drop, definitely they will be up and about. Now, my elephants here are up and about. And apart from the elephants, you can see we got other animals that we call the cattle egrets that are benefiting from these elephants as they move in the grass, and they're feeding slowly and surely. Small little tiny baby in the ground there. I'm not very far from the area I told you, the marsh area, that has lots of water. But you can tell these elephants, as much as the marsh have enough grass or other vegetation that these elephants could feed on and drink the water at the same time, they choose not to be in that area. And you see, they're on the edge of the forest, eating the grass and this area is much higher ground and no water. It's not waterlogged. And my guess is they'll keep feeding and move towards the forest to change the menu. But apparently, as soon as they get in the forest, the cattle egress, that will be the end of the road for them. We haven't seen the cattle egress following the elephants in there. Marco, that's a very good question, and you're asking, is the elephant population in the Mara growing? Yes, a very big yes. Apparently, Marco, me and Bunge, who is on the camera today, we had a debate that we wish the Masai Mara Game Reserve could be slightly bit bigger. We are talking, Marco, of 1,500 square kilometers, because from what we have found out the last 5 years, the numbers have gradually been rising. And we worry we do not have elephants that will outspace the current acreage of the Masai Mara. But yes, just to answer your question, Marco, the number of elephants are rising. And not only the Masai Mara, but the whole of East Africa. These are the savanna elephants, or the African bush elephants. Petro, how are you today? And you're asking of any news on Jasiri. I got 2 news for you. Number 1, I spoke to the vet this afternoon over lunchtime, and she told me Jasiri is doing very, very well. I haven't seen her for 2 days, but the last I was with her, she looked fine, and she was on her own, and she was just perfectly in very good shape and spirits. Petro, news number 2, apparently, I'm compiling a song for Jasiri. How does that sound, Petro? So maybe in the next few days, I'll be singing for you a song that I'm putting together for that baby elephant, because I'm very impressed by her progress, number 1. And number 2, she's very close to me, and affectionately, we have become very good friends. So I'm compiling a song for baby Jasiri. As we look at that cow with squint tusks, and you can see some of the elephants, especially the one you see there, the tusks are deformed. It happens many times. The times you'll see some of the tusks growing under the trunk, and even sometimes an elephant could have 1 tusk, and occasionally both of them could be missing. And more often than not, it's always genetical. But times maybe the bulls, when they go for each other, you get, unfortunately, they hurt, one another, and one may lose tusk. And like the antlers of certain deers you get in Europe or in Americas, the tusk, once it is lost, that's it, it's done. They do not regenerate them again. Very important tools the elephants need for survival. Breaking trees down, branches, digging food, tubers, roots underground, digging for water. And once in a while, the males, when they go for each other. Lots of flies you see flying on the screen. It's just because of the rains we have been having. Well, I'll move on, and hopefully I'm thinking of now trying to find Romy, the leopardess that we saw last night. We had 2 cubs. It's like this time around, she normally comes out of the forest.
Alright, being so hot today, these guys are making their way to the water. It's a nice breeding herd of blue wildebeest coming to the life-giving water. You'll see in frame shortly there'll be some young ones coming in. And these female herds move between different male territories. And coming into an area like this, there'll definitely be a dominant bull somewhere nearby. And if he sees them, he'll rush in and check the reproductive status of these females. And sometimes even trying to contain them within his territory. Unlike the Masai Mara, where they migrate annually to chase the rains, these guys don't migrate. In some parts they do in South Africa, but here at Tswalu they're fairly static or sedentary within an area. So water points like this around Tswalu are vital for these animals. And the animals have to track great distances to find water. There's the bull up there. So both male and female have horns, obviously an antelope being in the open. The difference is that males will have a bit more heavier set of horns than that of the females. Beautiful sight. Very complex animals. Guides tend to overlook them quite a lot. But blue wildebeest exhibit some of the most complex social arrangement there is with antelope. Really, really complex. And it's just taking the time to appreciate them and watch them when you begin to understand all the little fine details about these amazing creatures. The wind's starting to pick up a bit. We've had quite a warm day. It's about 27 degrees Celsius, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And the wind making it just a little bit drier, a little bit harder for these guys today. Young individual. So while they're busy drinking there, if David can get nice and close on its muzzle, you can see how well adapted the muzzle and dental structure is to enable the animal to crop or feed on grass which is very low lying. That's why in the Masai Mara you get the zebra and the blue wildebeest together. With the elongated muzzle of the zebra, that individual will crop the top parts of the grass, and then after that the wildebeest would come in with that broad muzzle and crop the low-laying pieces which have been cropped by the zebra. It's what we refer to as grazing facilitation. Two different species with each other, and they help each other out. Really beautiful to see this. Wow.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Ngala and our lovely elephant bull feeding on the grass beside him. So we've been watching him for quite some time and he seems fairly relaxed, just picking the grass, dusting it and shoving it in his mouth. My name is Marna and with me on the camera is Gert. So we saw another elephant bull just behind this one, maybe slightly larger, but we decided to come and stop with him first and see what he gets up to. So you'll often find these bulls together. And once they reach puberty, they get kicked out of their natal herds, and then they join these little bachelor herds, or they form these little bachelor herds. Now just have a close look at how he's dusting that grass. So when he pulls the grass out, a lot of the times there would still be dirt and soil stuck to the roots. And he obviously doesn't want to put that in his mouth. He doesn't want to chew on that. So that's why he's dusting it, just to get most of the dirt off before he puts it in his mouth. That trunk is one incredible tool. We can actually hear him chewing as well. Martin, do elephants have territories? I wouldn't say territories, but they have home ranges, so large areas in which they traverse, but they aren't really territorial per se. Like with other animals that protect a certain or that have a demarcated area that they live in, elephants don't have that. So they'll roam around in what we call a home range, and they just move to areas where there is more water or more food. And these bulls, when they go into must, which is a state that they go into when they're ready to mate, they travel long distances in search of females to mate with. So we often see new elephants crossing in and out of the reserve that we haven't seen before, which is quite nice. Stephen, is a male elephant bigger than a female elephant? Indeed they are. So an average male elephant would be around 6 tons, and a female would probably be around 3.5 to 4 tons. So they're quite a bit larger than the females. They're a lot higher, much bigger head. So they are much larger than the females. It's quite nice to see a male and female next to each other, so you can compare the height. But yeah, they are much larger. Tusks of the males also much larger than the females. They are quite impressive. And this is probably what he's been doing for most of the day, just feeding. Maybe at around midday he could have rested somewhere, maybe in the shade of one of these big trees. But he will eat around 300 kilograms of food. Now we were talking about the difference between the males and the females, or size difference. So obviously being larger, the males will eat a lot more than the females. But if a female has a baby, so if she's lactating or if she's pregnant, she might even eat more than that male. So then her grass or food intake will exceed 300 kilograms a day, which is incredible. Still just dusting the grass. It's quite interesting that he's just eating the grass. We're actually driving on this road. Just before we found him, we saw lots of trees that have been pushed over. And this time of year, the elephants do like the bark of the trees. Most of the grass, as you can see, is dead. So they tend to focus more on the trees and digging for bulbs and roots.
Well, elephants have to eat a lot to support their bodies. Not sure how much this kukal would eat. You'll see them catching insects, occasionally flowers, but I think what she's doing now, she's just hunting any insect in this bush. And this is the white-browed kukal. Very good, thank you very much. They make a very unique sound call, or on top there we have a new friend who has come, and that's the yellow-vented bulbul. Two different species of birds, but I'm imagining the same place because of food. You always hear them making a very unique call, like how you empty a bottle of water. Kind of call they make. Excellent. Excellent. Did you hear that? she might call again. And notice she uses like the whole neck and the vocal cord to make that call. How cute is that? Now, what I may not be able to know whether that is a territorial call or a breeding or mating call, but definitely must be one of those two. Let's see if she's going to call again. I'm imagining she got a very huge vocal cord that makes her vibrate the whole neck. That resonates. That is beautiful. And that's the sound you pick when you empty a bottle of water. White bar cuckoo, that's the name. And remember, we're coming to you live, ladies and gentlemen. Should you have any questions, please send them through or comments. MC, you asking if this bird is monogamous. What we know, MC, in general, you'll always see it on its own, either he or a she. But at most, you'll see them two, and I am more inclined to say it's monogamous. I'm not sure 100%. I may be, of course, finding out for UMC, but I'm more inclined to believe it's monogamous because you very rarely find them in, an gregarious form, going together 5, 10, 20, like the bulbuls. In general, you always see one at a time. They're very solitary. But I'm going to be confirming that 100% for UMC. But for now, tentatively, let's say they are monogamous. She's facing the other way. And they normally don't perch very high. That's the highest I've seen these birds go. Otherwise, you'll get them in the ground or the grass. I want to thank her for all those calls she has made, and I'm sure the director will be taking you to another location.
Sometimes you might miss out on wildlife, but you never miss out on birds. Birds are beautiful to see, and you never miss birds. Now here we have a herd of wildebeest, and in amongst the herd, we have zebras. Now, why do these wildebeest migrate? The primary reason why they migrate is because one, breeding and feeding. So they walk a long journey, about more than 3,500 kilometers, all the way from southern Serengeti into the Masai Mara, where they come, mate, and then head back after about 3 months. Then they head back south, where they'll head back to the southern Serengeti at a place called Ndutu area, where they'll give birth at around February or March. Now, during the 17th century, the Dutch settlers around South Africa came across the wildebeest, and they named them wild ox or the wildebeest. So the name came from the Dutch settlers who came around 17th century over to South Africa and named these guys wildebeest. So they are gathered around here when we're not far from the Mara River, and I'm presumably thinking that these guys will cross the river tomorrow. Because it's dried up, no rain at the moment. It rained further east towards where these wildebeest are walking to, and I think they might cross the river. A very nice spectacle to watch. Now, when they're mixed herd with the zebras, it becomes a very good protective measures, because zebras have sharp eyes, and when they walk together, then when both of them hear an alarm, then they alert each other. There's no clash over wildebeest and zebra, So they're all happy to graze because they're all grazers. So there's no competition over food. But interspecies rivalry comes in where you have zebras fighting amongst themselves and wildebeest fighting amongst themselves. But they're always happy to graze and walk together because they take this long journey walking together back and forth. Now, this grass is very sweet for them. It's called the red oat grass or Thymeda triandra, which is the most conspicuous grass here in the Mara. Now, we're here in the Mara Triangle where most of the herds have concentrated, and the Masai Mara Game Reserve, where we have a few herds that crossed over yesterday and the day before. So these herds will again go mix up with the other herd and cross the river back and forth, and later on, maybe I would say 2 weeks from now, they'll cross over heading back south to the Serengeti.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Pinda, where, I'm not sure if you saw that, but there was a little bit of a flick of a tail now from this cheetah. Relatively full bellies by the looks of things. Every so often there's a twitch of an ear as well. Maybe last night they might have fed on something quite small that would be attracting things like flies that would make them want to twitch their ears and flick their tails. Julian, you're asking why big cats will twitch their ears. For that exact reason. If sometimes they get their head stuck in things that they've just killed, they might get blood on them, and then what gets attracted to that blood rather, and things around their ears are little biting flies that can be quite an irritation, as they are for us. They're the same for them. We're lucky we've got our hands to swat things away with. They, on the other hand, not so lucky. So they use their ears to twitch every now and again. You might see a flick of the tail like we did just now. There we go. There's a little bit more of an ear flick. But just those flies. And as I sit here, I look through my binoculars and I'll probably be able to see one or two of those flies. But I think in wind like this, if a fly took off from its ear, it would probably end up back in the next country, because this wind is quite relentless this afternoon. Still quite hot, that sun, not a cloud in the sky this afternoon. These two just, I think, making the most of the warmer weather and the shady patch that they're in. And maybe only a little bit later when it really starts cooling off. I'd say in the next 20 minutes, half an hour. I haven't seen any more signs of them starting to get active, the grooming or the yawning, as we've been sitting with them for the most part of the afternoon. They're quite content where they are. This one closest to us now nodding off and then slowly lifting his head back up, maybe in the deep or the REM cycle of his sleep. But we were chatting earlier about them resting their necks the way they are. They must have quite strong muscles to hold or prop their heads up like that. I mean, you might every so often see them lying completely flat, but as they are now, it's just a little bit easier for them to, when they wake up, scan the surrounding area. We spoke about that. We spoke about them being the fastest land mammal from everything. I mean, they're just fine-tuned for speed. The whiskers on their faces, very, very short in comparison to things like lion and leopard that you might have seen elsewhere. Tail, which you can't really see at the moment because of this long grass, also very tapered, that it uses as a rudder. And then the claws, which you might be able to see if we have a closer look at that one on the left-hand side. He's lying a little bit further away from us. You'll be able to see their claws. Cheetah don't have those retractable claws like lions or leopards, and those two will just help these cheetah get as much traction as possible to try and catch things. But we are not getting a break from this wind as of yet, and maybe these two, because of this wind and being constantly bombarded by it, might get up and move off at some stage. Red?
So we've managed to catch up with the second elephant bull that was just further ahead, and he is doing exactly the same as the first one, also mostly feeding on the grass around him. What we've noticed is that there are quite a few small mapani trees scattered around the area that he's feeding in now, and every now and again you can see him pick a few mopani leaves as well. Now this is a nice leaf for them to eat and apparently very high in protein, but if the animals ingest too much of these leaves, it can potentially be toxic to them. Of course he walks in behind the tree. There's a bit of shade there. That's probably why he moved in that direction. Let's just quickly move forward a little bit. Oh, that's beautiful. So nice seeing elephants out in the open plains like this. Seize the night. Those tusks will actually keep growing throughout their lives. Now, I've read that the tusks will grow between 15 and 18 centimeters per year. And as they use the tusks, it also wears down. So if you have a look at his tusks there, you can see they're actually quite dirty. He actually has, his tusks are quite symmetrical, and there are no grooves or breaks on them. But, you know, those tusks work very hard. They dig with them, and they also debark trees. So quite often you'll see the trees with scars, and with the bark that's stripped off all the way around, and then the trees unfortunately die. And then the males also fight with those tusks, and that's when they often break off. But yeah, they will keep growing. But the only thing he's using at the moment is that trunk of his. And like I mentioned earlier, that is an incredible tool for an elephant to have. It is really, really dexterous. And if you have a close look at the tip there, notice what he's doing. He's actually using those two almost finger-like tips to break off the little branches and then putting it in his mouth. Now it's incredible, like how they can pick up the smallest little seed, and then you also see them break large branches off with those trunks. They're incredibly strong. It always reminds me of a caterpillar when I watch an elephant's trunk move. How he's feeling around. And their skin's incredibly thick, so those spines and thorns don't even bother him. Rosalind, what other plants are toxic to elephants? I'd have to go look that one up. With concerns to like this mopani that I mentioned just now, you know, they'd have to eat a lot of it for it to actually affect them. So with anything else, you know, things that are more poisonous to other animals, an elephant would have to eat a lot just because of their digestive systems. They've got really poor digestive systems, and 60% of what they eat actually just goes straight through. So even if it is a toxic plant, they'd have to eat so much of it for it to actually affect them, that I think in general they're pretty okay. So maybe if there was a big woodland of only Mopani and that was the only thing available to them, then it might be a bit of a problem. But there is always other things that they can substitute their diet with. But as far as other poisonous things, there are quite a few poisonous plants out here, but I don't think it affects the elephants that much. Look how wrinkly the skin around the eye is. Well, the whole body actually. But you've got a nice view of all the wrinkles there now. Such a gentle looking creature, eh? See him chewing the grass there with his big molars. He's still working on that little thorny bush. And he hasn't even finished chewing the last bite, and he's already breaking off the next branches. Roger, how thick is an elephant's skin? So as far as I know, it depends on which area you're going through, or which area on the elephant it is. But around 3-4 centimeters in some parts. But the ears are incredibly thin, and you can actually see that if you look at the ears from here, really, really thin. So it just depends on where. But yeah, you can, if you look at that up close, you'll actually notice the veins in the ears. So really, really thin around the ears. But yeah, they've got a really tough and thick hide. I have unfortunately seen elephant carcasses, animals that have died of natural causes, or the odd instance where a youngster might have been killed by one of the carnivores out here. And it's really hard for them to get through an elephant's skin. It's really, really thick. And usually you'd have to have large predators like lions, maybe hyenas, and they'll start at the belly or under the tail. And then also those big lappet-faced vultures that we were chatting about this morning. So we're going to sit with him for a little bit longer. We're going to send you off to one of our other guides.
All right, we've come across another group of oryx with more young little oryxes. Very young as well. So you can see the one on the right-hand side of the picture is really starting to look like an oryx. The one that's in the middle, that is very young. That's about 2 months of age there. And just like I was mentioning earlier, having that tawny coloured coat in the beginning really allows this little animal to blend into the environment. When mom leaves it for a couple of hours, she'll go off and graze, and then through different intervals she'll come back and nurse and clean this little one. And that very beautiful coat allows it to remain concealed. We're quite a way away from these guys, so no chance of disturbing them, doing the most natural thing and what they should be doing. For me, watching natural behavior, like I've mentioned before, is very, very, very important. So nice nursery hood. And these guys are nomadic, traveling huge distances. Within a day or a couple of days,
as you can see, there's a little bottom that is there, and it's the playful male cub of Tswalu, which is so cool because it's the first time that I've managed to see him. So I'm excited to actually finally catch up with this little guy. He seems like a little character already. He's chasing birds around at the moment, and there's a huge herd of buffalo that's milling about as well. So we've got him, we've got buffalo. We're very close to Chitwa Dam at the moment, so there he goes. Look. Well, you're not going to catch those birds. They're too fast for you. All right, let's try and reposition quickly because otherwise we're going to lose him quite quickly. What I'm going to try and do is just head round onto the other side of this drainage in the hope that he will just cross over the drain. No. Now you've got to lay down. Of course you have. So I'm going to try and just reposition slightly and see if we can't get a better view of him from here. It still seems to be a little bit twitchy when there's a lot of branches broken, and so we're just going to take it a little bit easy with him, and I'll probably stop here. He's just directly in front of us at the moment, and he's now growling at all the birds and squirrels that are shouting at him after he went rushing after them. But you can see he's just kind of moving through there. He's a beautiful little boy. Now, he's about a year old, so he's still growing. I think he's going to follow the buffalo, is what he's going to do. There's a buffalo just in front of him that he's busy following. All right, BK, let's go around. It's going to be much easier for us to go around than it is to be here. And we're going to lose sight of him anyway, and we won't be able to cross that drainage line. Unfortunately, it's quite a steep-sided, eroded bank, so hopefully we'll be able to catch him on the other side. We should do. It's not exactly very difficult. The problem is that the lodge is just on the other side here, so he might slip in to the lodge itself, and that will make life a little bit more tricky. So I'm hoping that he doesn't do that. I'm hoping that he decides to stay on this side of the lodge so that we don't have to worry too much about it going in underneath the lodge fence. Although leopards, as we know, love to do that, particularly young male leopards. It's one of their favorite pastimes is to hang around in a camp. All the young male leopards that I've ever known around Chitwa have done the same thing. Okay, we're going to try and see if we can relocate him. Hopefully he'll come out and maybe he'll even stalk these buffalo.
Welcome back, everybody. Just as we said when you left us earlier, now that it's starting to cool down a little bit, both of us, myself and Craig, have both put our jackets on this time. This cheetah closest to us has started showing signs of starting to get a little bit more active than earlier. That grooming that you see now, yawning, it was almost contagious. It yawned about 5 or 6 times in the space of a couple of minutes. Just pumping its brain full of oxygen and starting to sort of warm up to the idea of getting a little bit more active this afternoon. You can still hear the wind in the background pumping through as we sit and watch these two, and I'm hoping that maybe if this brother is a more dominant one, because there'll always be a more dominant brother in a coalition, see a big old yawn again. And then you can actually see quite nicely if it yawns again, you can see those carnassial shears right at the back of its mouth where our molars would be, but right at the back for them, that they use as scissors to cut through skin and things like that and pieces of meat. But maybe, and it's often the case where, the dominant brother will get up and start walking and the other will follow. So I'm hoping now that all these signs of him grooming, yawning, will mean that he might just prop himself up first, sit up, have another scan around, make sure the coast is clear, or if there's something maybe that there could be on the menu this afternoon, an impala, something like a nyala, grey duiker archer, that it could potentially hunt. See if it doesn't yawn again now, this brother closest to us. Blackjack, you're asking if cheetahs sleep longer than lions. Not typically, no. I definitely don't think so. Lions will sleep for the majority of the day. But cheetah, like we've been watching, in and out of sleep most of the morning. Afternoon, I beg your pardon. So I would say maybe 2/3 of the day. If that, maybe even half the day, because they are diurnal, so most active in the morning and in the evening. Now you can see them starting to wake up properly, but the whole time that we've been with them, they awake, then they fade off again, then they're up again, nod off, and then they, scanning their surroundings. But they're both now starting to show quite a few more signs of getting active this afternoon. So yeah, I'd say if half the day. And you might see when predators like lions, blackjack are moving around at night, that's when cheetah will try and find a clearing where they can see for a long way to rest for the heat of the day or in the evenings. But now this cheetah having a proper scan around, especially cheetah moms with youngsters, will move when lions, leopards, hyenas are all fast asleep during the heat of the day. At night, that's where I was going with this. At night, cheetah will find an area that they know for quite a while there's nothing approaching them. They can see for kilometers on end, so if something were to disturb them, they could get away in time. So I'd say half, a fraction of what lion sleep is how long cheetah will sleep. You can see the features of this cheetah brother closest to us now a little bit better as he sits up. Almost looks like it's eating grass now to help its digestive system with its head where it is plucking away there. But maybe not. There you can see those short whiskers that we spoke about earlier, a couple of nicks and scratches on its nose. Maybe warming up for another yawn now, licking his lips. Just slowly but surely, and it's like us early hours of the morning when we get up. It just takes us a while to warm up to the idea of getting up and getting active and ready for the day. But now this is a time of day when we might see something exciting. If they move back towards the area where we saw those impala, who knows what will happen. But it definitely looks like this one's gearing up to move this afternoon. So I'm going to stick around and see where they end up. Ron 23 asking if these two brothers will stay together for life. They will indeed stick together for life. Them, as do male lions, stick together. They form coalitions like you see here, these two, and well, obviously it's easier for them to dominate a territory. There's safety in numbers. They can help each other when it comes to hunting. So yes, they will stick together for the rest of their lives. But maybe when it comes to mating, and very little is known about the mating habits of cheetah. But when it comes to like I said, they won't be far from one another. But the dominant male will be with the female, and then the other will be quite close by. But yes, Ron 23, they do stick together for life. And they'll leave mom at about 18 months to 2 years old, probably closer to 2. And then the males will stick together there. If there are females in the litter, they too will stick together for maybe a couple of months before they go their own way and look to start families of their own. Amazing to watch this process of waking up. I really do hope that this brother, after this build-up that we've had, all the grooming and yawning, that he does get up and move this afternoon. So I'm going to stick around and see what they get up to.
It's always nice seeing cheetahs, and especially two brothers, when they coordinate and try to hunt something. Now, I've been driving for about 20 or 25 minutes, and all this space is wildebeest, wildebeest, wildebeest. You can hear them snorting, some of them are ratting, and this is the rat season where some of them are all mating. You can hear zebras calling. Those are the stallions, especially when they are chasing away the other stallions. Now we're cutting across this savannah because earlier this morning we had the Olololo Pride who tried to hunt, but they failed 2 times. So the failed attempts, maybe they might be lucky this evening. So I'll be driving, cutting across all this wildebeest here to get to the other side to see if we have our lions and if maybe they got lucky, or maybe if they want to go for a kill, because lions prefer hunting at the cooler times, like in the night and a time like now. See, some of these wildebeest have calves, and all these calves that you see here, some of them were born this year in February. Because of how strong they are and where they give birth, rich in minerals, these wildebeest are able to manage the 3,500 kilometer journey back and forth. Oh, there's lots of calls around here. So in nighttime, we're going to have lots of activity because from where we are, there's a hyena den, and of course we know where the lions are. So tomorrow morning, we might be having lots of kills, or maybe some that maybe have gotten lucky. So these zebras and wildebeest will stay here for the night. Actually, this place is flat where they can all gather up for security. So as the wildebeest carry on grazing, I'm also going to carry on to find the Olololo Pride.
The wonderful pale chanting goshawk and a yellow canary in frame as well. The pale chanting goshawk must be one of the most prominent raptors found throughout Tswalu. Very, very beautiful bird and very easy to recognize with that diagnostic orange beak with the tip being black and this like slate grey coloration. Prey would range through mammals, rodents, at times even reptiles and birds, and then even larger things up to like hares. And this all just comes back to another topic, and I want to just discuss quickly the difference between hares and rabbits. The wonderful viewer asked that wonderful question, the difference between them, and I don't think I gave the tools correctly. So the difference between hares and rabbits, morphologically,
Well, our naughty little boy is making buffalo have the worst afternoon ever. He's chasing them all over, and it's because there's a single buffalo that's got a serious wound from what looks like where lions have grabbed it on the back, and so it's bleeding profusely, and he's toying with them. He keeps following them around, and it's causing much panic with these buffalo at the moment. It's been quite entertaining just to watch him because he's such a small little boy. He theoretically should not be giving the buffalo any sort of problems, but you know, buffalo being buffalo, sometimes they're not sure. BK, let's go a little bit closer because he's drinking now. So the buffalo have run off behind me, but I'm pretty sure that he is going to head straight towards where they are. So as long as we just kind of stay fairly sort of close on the side, I'm pretty sure he's going to follow the buffalo. I see them kind of already gone up towards the dam at this stage. So cool to watch. Absolutely love it. And I was saying, now it's so good to be back behind Chitwa Dam wall with the leopard again. It's been so long since I was last year with the leopard. This used to be the haunt of Hosana and Tamba. We used to find them here regularly, and we haven't really been driving here much because, well, there hasn't been a lot of leopard activity. So it's really cool to be with the young male leopard again and his antics behind a dam wall. So I'm having the best afternoon with this little guy. He's super cool. Still a little bit nervy. He's not 100% with the vehicles just yet. He kind of twitches and looks at you every now and then, and he's not as kind of relaxed as what Tamba and Hosanna were, but he's getting there. I mean, he's obviously spending more time on his own now from the reports that I've heard. Even though it's the first time I've seen him, you hear a lot about him. He's spending a lot more time on his own, and it seems like he's growing in confidence. Vehicles are spending more time with him, and therefore he's starting to work out that we're not really something to worry about. But it's quite common in a sort of litter when you've got two, so two cubs, that one is a little bit more shy than the other one. So the female's a bit more relaxed than he is. So, Nikki, what it means when a leopard is nomadic is that they haven't quite established themselves as a territorial individual. And so when a leopard sets up a territory, what he's doing is, or female or male, doesn't really matter, is that they'll have an area that will have water, food availability, and potential for mating rights. And they'll then walk that area and they will mark it and try and keep other leopards out of that area. And so when we say nomadic, what that means is that either it's early on in their life, when they haven't had the ability to establish dominance yet, or it's later on in their life, in the case of somebody like Tingana, where they have had dominance but are slowly being pushed out by younger males that are stronger, bigger, and they are starting to then put pressure on them. And so what they have to do is leave their territory, and they then start to move through other males' territory, and they keep moving until they find a place where they're able to settle. So that is how a kind of nomadic thing works. When an animal is nomadic, it means that it doesn't have a home that it's actively patrolling and marking. So he, for example, at the moment is not quite nomadic because he is still within his mother's territory, so he's in his natal territory, and he's still under the protection of his mom because he's not really big. But she's going to start phasing him out of her life now, and soon he will then become nomadic and he'll start to move around. And we've got to hope that he starts to move up into Djuma area, because it'll be really nice to have a young, relaxed male leopard again. They are the best value when it comes to viewing. Young male leopards seem to somehow get themselves into all kinds of situations that are always hugely entertaining. So hopefully he'll kind of move up and we'll start to see him maybe around Twin Dams and the sort of southern parts of Djuma. Isn't that cute? Oh, he's such a beautiful little leopard. I mean, what leopard isn't beautiful, but it's so cool to actually get to spend some time with him. What is noticeable is that his spots are quite compact and quite close together. He's got a very sort of spotty coat, so lots of little spots and rosettes all the way down, particularly his neck area. And his coloration is definitely different to that of the colors of the Tandi lineage. So Tandi, Tlalamba, Kuchava, they're all a bit more golden color, whereas he's a kind of a light sort of pale color. Are you going to go and stalk Egyptian geese now, or what are you going to do? Nope, we're going to sniff around it. Look at that. Isn't that magnificent? What are you doing, boy? Now, just now, he had the best game with a stick that he was biting and he was rubbing himself on and he was hugging the branch. So let's see if he does it again with this one. I think he's being attacked by biting flies at this stage as well, from where the buffalo have been lying in the mud. But I want to see if he... No. How are you going to cross to this side? Let's see if he gives us a little jump, or if he's just going to walk around. I think he's going to jump over at some point. Or we're going to lie there. So cool. So he does look like he has very dark kind of eyeliner. He is beautiful though. Look at that. Of course, he's going to grow a lot more. He's only about half the size of what he will be. At this stage, he's probably very close to the size of his mother. So to give you an idea, if you had to take a leopard that we know very well, Tlalamba is about the same size as what he is now. He's probably a little bit bulkier, but he's the same sort of length and height, and even his head size is pretty similar And so he's still got to go probably double the size of what he is right now. So he's got a lot of growing still to do. And his danger element of his life is the most dangerous part is past, but he's going to go through a very critical phase now where a lot of leopards come unstuck, which is when they leave their mother and have to start fending them for themselves. So it's going to be interesting to follow that little journey over the next few months. He certainly is got a lot ahead of him if he's going to become a powerhouse male leopard somewhere in the ecosystem that is the Greater Kruger Park. But where he's lying, he's going to be tormented by flies. Like I say, when buffalo have been wallowing, there's a huge amount of biting flies that end up staying behind, sequestering the moisture from the mud. So I suspect what you're going to find is he's going to be accosted by them, and we're going to see him starting to move on. Well, we're going to stay with him. I'm hoping that he's going to get up and follow the buffalo, and we'll get to see him stalking buffalo. It seems like that's exactly what he's going to do, so we'll just have to follow along.
And that will be the cutest little bottom that you see for the rest of your game drive. There was a small little elephant. I am contemplating moving forward. What do you think? Odie? Yes. We're doing it because it's cute. And I want to look at a cute baby elephant. And I think all of you want to look at a cute baby elephant. Hi, big mama. You can see that's mom. It's okay. Don't mind us. We're just sneaking on past. Sorry. Unfortunately, this is not the quietest car, so it goes and makes lots of noise. There's the little one. Stay there so we can watch you. Hello, little one. What you doing? Trying to put a very thorny little branch in your mouth. It's going to be quite prickly. Off it goes. So I'm pretty sure this is part of Susan's herd. She's in here somewhere. They're all just feeding amongst this basalt ridge at the moment and clambering over them, which would be quite entertaining. I'm sure she'll come charging out in no time. Or she might be ahead. The herd did split up after they had a bit of a mud bath. Some were further ahead than others. Some of them didn't even have a mud bath. They just sort of had a drink when we got there. They weren't quite interested in rolling around. So Susan kind of got left behind with most of the boys, in fact. She's very curious about them at the moment, but here's, look at that little one. Oh, I love the way that the light is also catching its eye. You are very small. I'm not really sure how old this little elephant is. Probably about 3 months or so. Maybe 4 months. Could still quite easily squeeze under mom's belly. We know we can use that as a reference to sort of age an elephant of about 6 months or so. And I think this one is a bit younger than that. Now they are really going up and into the rocks. How cool is that? And the light is just so gorgeous at the moment as well. I would love to be sitting up on top of one of these big boulders and just watching them from above. Minamu, I'm sure that yes, of course, climate change would affect elephants. I think climate change affects everybody and everything out here. With the temperatures rising, I'm not sure what effect that's going to have on the weather systems here in Africa. Obviously, we're quite prone to droughts and things like that, and we had one that lasted for a couple of years, which really, really wasn't good. So if we get something like that happening again and too soon, it could be a bit devastating to the environment, because I don't think that the bush has quite recovered just yet. It's better, and if we get big rain this year, then I think we will be back to where we were. So I definitely think so. I think it'll affect, obviously, with there being water around, and then the food availability for that. And with animals not being able to move around freely like they used to, and travel, many, many kilometers and move, into new areas to feed. Remember, there was migrations that were done from Angola all the way to Mozambique by elephants. Now, they can't do that anymore. So if we get to the point where there's just no food and no water available for them, where are they going to go? There's nowhere for these animals to go. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is that if something like that does happen and does affect these animals is that where can they go to get their food with their migratory routes being stopped. In terms of it getting hotter and hotter, I think elephants are lucky in the way that they're able to cool themselves down, so that's not going to, I don't think, bother them too much. They're quite accustomed to dealing with exceptional temperatures. But of course that becomes a bit of a problem if there isn't enough water around. Remember, elephants will drink water. Of course, they need about 100 liters or so a day, but they also need water to toss over themselves to help cool themselves down too. That's very, very important. And I think I was telling you a little while ago, like, for example, elephants in Namibia need to utilize water more regularly to cool themselves down by covering their bodies with it. There's a little elephant sneaking out in front, more so than the elephants in South Africa. So I think these things would all come into play. You know, where are you going? Also got a stick and just crossing the road in front of us. I'd like to see where the rest of the herd is. It'd be quite cool to see them navigating in between the rocks. So I think that's exactly what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to reposition slightly to see if we can find the rest of the herd.
Very good, Taylor. Yeah, I'm sure if you do that, and because I know you love elephants, you might end up seeing a whole huge, or the whole herd together. Now, look what we got for you. After going a couple of days without seeing the wildebeest, here they are. This tells you the migration is still on, but for me, most importantly, this is the very tail end of the migration from where I am in the Mara Triangle. Loads and loads of the wildebeest. And as you see, they've come from the northwest of the Mara Triangle. They have avoided the river near a place that we call Pontu, where we saw lots of zebras. Wildebeest dying. That's about 3 weeks ago, trying to cross at a very tricky and dangerous place. And I think maybe tomorrow or the day after, they'll be going to the main crossing, and possibly I'll follow them in that area to see if we'll see them cross the river. See how the light's just sieving through their beards. Daniel, you're asking how many wildebeest exist. We think total migration is about 1.8 million animals, Daniel. And the wildebeest alone, the current estimates that we have been given by the people who follow them, let's see, on a daily basis, is 1.2 million. So the rest, maybe 500,000 or so, would be zebras, and then a couple of hundreds or thousands of elands and a few tommies. But we think the wildebeest currently are about 1.2 million animals. Huge number by any standard, Daniel. Always a pleasure to hear from you, Daniel, in terms of you sending questions or comments. And should anybody else, you're more than welcome to do the same like Daniel. Hashtag World Earth on Twitter, or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. There's Thompson Gazelle there, and they always tag along with these animals during the migration. Very low temperatures and good light. Currently, you'll find these animals are enjoying the last bites of grass before it gets dark. And chances are they'll just slow down and wait for the daybreak tomorrow. I'll spend a few more minutes with them here as we take you to another live location.
Well, we have the most crazy antics with this little guy. He is rolling around and playing and biting branches and doing everything that you could ask for from a leopard to be entertaining. He looks like he's having the best time. I think he's found himself a little bit of mud or maybe buffalo dung. There was something there that he's enjoying rolling around in. You can see he's... What are you doing, silly? I like him already. He's got a lot of character, that's for sure. You can hear the Franklins are complaining at him, but he's paying no attention because he's too busy having the best time and rolling around and doing his thing. Franklins, he's not chasing you. Leave him alone. Shame. This is super cute. What you doing, boy? He's gotten himself into like a little thicket that he seems to like. He kind of came out of it and then went back in and came out and back in again. So he seemingly is quite happy where he is. He's enjoying his little spot under the tree. Now, the reason why a lot of leopards like this particular section, particularly young leopards, is that there's a lot of water behind the dam wall. There's also a lot of prey animals that come down to this area, especially at this time of the year. And the third big part about it is that it's got a lot of dense, thick areas, so it's a perfect place to hide. There's a lodge close by, so if something like potentially a lion comes and tries to chase them, they're able to get in under decks and kind of be able to hide away and utilize these thickets in this drainage section in order to hide. So it's always been a popular spot for leopards. Ever since I used to work at Chitwa in 2011, 2012, we used to find leopards here very regularly, including, Tandi, Karula. They all used to come down here from time to time, particularly Tandi. I mean, she used to live around the lodge. So it's just a succession that's taken place over time. It's just as soon as one leopard vacates this area, another one comes in because it's just such ideal habitat. And it makes for the best place for learning as well. Because of the wetland environment here, there's a lot of birds, which makes for good hunting practice for younger animals. Have you got elephant dung now? Don't you love it when these guys just roll over onto their backs? For sure, Nancy is enjoying life while he's still a teenager because, well, there's no other time that you're going to be able to enjoy life like this. When you're young, you don't have too many worries. At the moment, his dad, if it is Mulawati, doesn't really see him as a threat. And I mean, he looks very similar to Mulawati, and we can't really think of any other males that could potentially be the father. So you find a situation where because he's, under the protection of his dad, his mom is still around, he's still getting the odd kill from his mom. It allows him an ability to be able to have a youthful exuberance and play and, learn and do all of these things. As soon as he's out of his mom's kind of care and he starts to become more fully grown, his dad will start to see him as a threat, and then the relationship starts to change and life becomes a lot more serious then, because he has to then be pushed out of his natal territory. He's got to try and find an area of his own. He's going to come across male leopards that don't know him, that potentially going to chase him around. He's going to come across prides of lions, hyenas, all of these kinds of things, and areas that he doesn't know. So if he's going to have youthful antics, it's now is the time to do it. You can't chase the Franklins, you silly boy. It's not going to mean he's going to not try. The looks of things, he's going to try and go up into the tree itself. What are you doing? I suppose he's getting frustrated in a way with the Franklin shouting at him. He hasn't quite learned yet that his tail needs to go up to stop being shouted at. This is magic. Isn't this cool? If he's going to go up the big tree, let's see. He's kind of heading towards it. Yep, there he goes, look. Nope, that bird's flown away now as well. So he's got no chance at that one. So the thing is, as much as it's comical in a way, the way that he's kind of chasing these birds around, it's hugely valuable for him, because the older he gets and the more he tries these things, the more he's learning how to be able to hunt, and he's figuring things out, and eventually he'll be able to get one of these birds. There's a bird just above him that's going to cause him to try and get to it. It's just on this side of the tree. I don't know if you can see it moving there. I wonder if he's going to try go into those branches. The bird's very clever. It's sitting right on the periphery of the tree, on the smallest, tiniest little branch, and I don't think he's going to be able to go up there. Those branches I don't think will hold his weight even now, but he's trying to figure it out. You can see he's kind of looking around a little bit and checking to see, how am I going to go about this to get to this francolin. Eventually he'll get it right. He will eventually catch francolins. Leopards, we know, will eat francolins a lot of the time. They're not shy to eat birds. And so, like I say, this will all be him learning. Now, remember, a lot of people will say to you that leopards are taught. There we go. Nope, you missed. Sorry, buddy. Leopards are taught how to hunt. That's not actually necessarily correct. Leopards' behavior, a lot of it is instinctual, and so you can see here there is no mother present, but his instinct is telling him to try and chase these francolins from tree to tree, and he's working out, okay, if I go into this tree, or if I go into that tree, if I do this, I do that, and every time there's a negative reaction from the francolins and they move away, he's learning a lesson. So he knows, okay, I've got to be a little bit more stealthy in my approach, I've got to do things slightly differently, and eventually he'll get it right, and through enough trial and error, he'll get himself one of these francolins at some point. So it's just about trying, and eventually, with a little bit of patience, things work out. Are you going to lie down in the tree now? Or are we going to rethink our plan? I think we're rethinking the plan at this stage. Things haven't quite worked out the way he had hoped, and so now it's a game of what next. Very cool. What a magic way to spend an afternoon. Right, we're just going to be patient and sit with him. I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of other antics that will play out during the course of the afternoon.
Leopards can be playful, and I'm trying to imagine watching leopards playing in a sunset, like what I got here. Look at those magical colors of my western horizon with the backdrop of the Olololo escarpment. I'll give you 10-15 seconds just to enjoy that view. But at the same time, if you look very carefully, bottom right of your screen, you can see some pups that are coming up on that termite mound. And these are 3 jackal pups. This is the silver-backed or the black-backed jackals. And they've got a den here. Itchy, scratch, what could it be? A flea, a tick, a mite, a louse. It could be anything. The 2 above, I've noticed they're always very close to each other, as much as all the 3 are siblings. And jackals will get anything from 1 to 9 pups in a litter. This one here got these 3 pups. The 2 little sleepy, snoozy. Jackals are very monogamous. I think I had a question earlier of whether white-barred cuckoo, I think it was from MC, are monogamous. Jackals are definitely very monogamous. Are you trying to go back home, or you're just staying near the door? Behind them is the door. And termite mounds are normally patronized by so many animals. Jackals, mongoose, snakes, monitor lizards, certain birds like the Usabiro barbet. And in there, I think the different apartments for each one of them. Just being playful here. So the mother sometimes, or the parents, will leave them for quite some time for the better part of the day. Go feed them, and I'm sure they always left very clear instructions. Liam jackals are canines, and they are related to foxes, to wolves, to coyotes. And Liam, apparently, until recently, we have always thought we got 3 species of jackals in Africa. Now this one here, and there's another one that we used to call the golden jackal and the side striped jackal. But I've seen or some research has been done by the IUCN, and they have found out what we used to call the golden jackal. Its DNA is very closely related to the wolves, and currently that name has changed, and you're not calling it the golden jackal anymore, but instead we're calling it the African golden wolf. So we only got now 2 species of jackals in Africa, and the third, that was the golden jackal, is the African golden wolf. They found out the IUCN is more closely related to the wolves. So let's say looking at our pups here out there, and that would mean then in Africa, apart from now that new classified African golden wolf, north of Kenya we have a country called Ethiopia, and that's the only wolves that I knew before that we call the Ethiopian wolves. Currently now then we got 2 species. One of the pups have gone right into the den, been left 2, and was very grateful to a friend of mine who helped me out with that new research that the golden jackal is not a jackal anymore, but it's a wolf. In the Mara we see more of the black-backed jackals, what we have there, and once in a while, when you're lucky, we shall see the side-strapped jackal, which has a little bit of a bushy tail, rather big size compared to these ones here. And I just want to let these pups enjoy the evening, as I'm sure you'll be taken to another colleague of mine.
So we have just driven into a spectacular scene. Firstly, the sky is looking incredible with the sun disappearing behind the clouds there. And then, as you can see, lying amongst the grass here is the Birmingham Pride. And most of them have their heads up. They're quite active. The youngsters are playing around just on the side of this nice big termite mound. There's one of the big males sleeping in front of that female that's looking up, one of the Ross males. But it's just cooling down now. So you can see a lot of them are yawning, grooming themselves, just getting ready to get up. Now, we had them yesterday morning with that buffalo carcass that they finished. So I can't imagine that they would be very hungry, or that they would want to hunt again tonight, but you never know with this pride. A few of them are still passed out. Cubs playing on the termite mound there. I don't know if you can get that hurt. Might be behind the bush, but they're just chasing each other around. Oh! some of the adults also getting up now. What a beautiful scene. So notice how they just blend into the grass. If you look at this shot when we go out and we start wide, the only thing you can really see in the grass are those black spots, the markings behind the ears. Otherwise, they just blend in.
Beautiful. So now we arrive in this waterhole, treehouse dam, and it looks nothing in this waterhole, but there's a single male hippo inside there, where every now and then he just pops his nostrils, also the head, just having a look around. So this is actually the time of the day that they might able to get out and move around. But for them, since they're very territorial, this male, they spend a lot of time here all alone. Sometimes they can dominate nothing, depend on how, strong he is with the hippos. Now he's showing up again. You can see his little ears sticking out. It looks like it's a big male, this as well. As you can see there. So it comes in a time where he will probably come out of this waterhole, go feed. If he's lucky enough somewhere, he'll probably maybe come back with maybe some females. But for that, it depends on, these animals, more especially territorial animals, they fight so much to own the females, to have females. Now for him being here, it's safer because it's not much of a challenge. But if he has to challenge another male, which means for him he needs to move from here to get into another waterhole where there's a lot of females and they're dominated by one of the male there, and that's where the fight starts from. And of course, usually fight, it's very strong fight. Can the whole day for such an animal, then it just can't stop fighting the whole day there. Well, I'm gonna leave him here and then carry on, look around for anything else.
Well, once in a while, we'll see male hippos fighting, as it would also happen to male rhinos. And in general, all these animals will fight for territorial reasons. Now, very luckily, we got black rhino, and I think it's a cow with her two calves, one big one and the one you see behind her there. How lucky to see her with her two calves. In the Masai Mara, we only got the black rhinos. I'm just keeping my voice a bit soft because they're very sensitive to any sound. The sense of sight is not the best, but hearing, they're very acute. They pick any noise, anything that makes them a little uncomfortable, you'll always see their reaction. They basically browse us, black rhinos, and they'll just be picking plants as they move and got no business with the grass. See, the mother's a bit light in color, unlike the calves. That bush, most likely she is feeding on, could be the Kepa's bush, and they love it. I'm sure they get lots of minerals or some sort of nutrients from them. Maybe calcium, maybe phosphorus. I've always wondered, as much as the browsers, do they ever pick pieces and bits of grass as they feed? I'll not be surprised. I mean, they're herbivores. And just like the white rhinos also, as much as they graze us, they pick some leaves and twigs here and there. but maybe not much. Of course, one of the big differences between these two species here is the shape of the mouth. The rhinos, or the black rhinos, have what you call prehensile or triangular shaped mouth to be able to work as lips, or like forceps, what you'd use to grab something. Like the giraffes would use their tongues or their lips. That's how the black rhinos are designed for the mouth. While the white have like square-shaped mouth, designed just like the hippos to be able to graze and feed on grass. Always slightly smaller, the black rhinos compared to the white rhinos, and they may weigh much less. And it's a Maasai giraffe, not very far from that rhino there. And I'm sure she knows, or they know, that's another animal there. Unlike if it was a human being, you could see her reaction would be very different. They become sometimes super sensitive when they have young ones. And I think seeing the jackal pups a few minutes ago and seeing a black rhino and two calves have made my sunset drive. Well, I'll be taking you to another location.
Look at the scene that we have. I don't know if it's quite doing it justice on the camera as it is on our cell phones. Hey, Odie? Yeah. The colors that are popping. Oh my goodness, you have no idea. Like the sun is just, obviously it's a ball of fire, but the sky is just unbelievable. These hues of orange and sort of mauves and faint blues. It's so gorgeous and so dramatic. And then of course, to have the elephants in the foreground is really, really, really special. Clouds honestly just make a sunset that much better. And I don't know when when I personally have had such a spectacular sunset. It's been a while. It's beautiful. With the whole herd moving around. I wish that they would have climbed up to our higher spot sooner. We might still try and get some silhouetted elephants. I will do some maneuvering at some point. I'm just waiting for the elephants to move away in front of us as we watch this Ellie stir up the dust and try and pull out a root. He's struggling. Although there was another elephant bull that was doing most of the work for him. He shoved him out of the way and said, "Thank you very much, I'll take it from here." And I was reaping the rewards. Oh, he's just absolutely loving that. Chomping down on it. Goodness gracious, this is a beautiful scene. I don't know, would you like to rate my sunset? Maybe you can. Hashtag Wild Earth. Let us know what you think. Now, Charmander, elephants don't have terrible eyesight. I mean, I've never been an elephant and never looked through their eyes before, so this is just hearsay. But supposedly elephants see very similar to how we as humans see, obviously in just shades of black and grey. Not beautiful, wonderful colours that we are able to pick out. And so they don't see terribly, but they do rely on their other senses. I suppose they use a combination of their senses. They use their hearing, their sense of smell, which is just out of this world, and then of course their eyesight. So if they thought that they saw something, you might find that they stop and stand still and listen, see if they can hear if whatever they saw was moving. And if they can't do that, then they probably also take a deep breath and go, maybe I can smell what it is. Anyways, here's a young elephant, little bull, who supposedly doesn't need his mom nearby. He's very young still, and the females have all moved quite far away. He's too cool. He's hanging out with the big boys now. Oh, it's not, is it a little? No, it is a little bull. Sorry, for a minute I thought, oh, that head looks a bit sharp. But then I just double-checked. It is a little bull. You can see there's another vehicle also here enjoying the sighting with us. I'm so thankful that there are some guests on safari to witness this. Of course, you're also all guests and you're watching this too. Very lucky. I would, Odie, it's going to be so good. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to race around to the top, get in front of the elephants, and maybe we'll get a little silhouette.
So we've also decided to reposition and just get a better view of the cubs playing on the other side of the mound. So, as I mentioned earlier, it sounds like, or it looks like, most of the adults are slowly waking up. Oh, look at the little one climbing the tree there. They are so playful. And the sun is just setting behind them. Look at that. Little white female just watching the youngster very closely. Right, looks like a bunch of the adults have actually gotten up and they are moving away from this area. Cleo, how many white lions are in this pride? So at the moment we have 2. So the one that you just saw, you can just see on the left-hand side of the screen there. And then there's an older male. He's almost 2 years old. So just the 2 of them. A few years before that male was born, we actually had more white lions on Gala, 3 cubs. But new males moved into the pride and they unfortunately killed them. And we're very happy that these 2 now have made it this far. But currently there are 3 wild white lions, so ones that haven't been reintroduced or taken into these wilderness areas. And yeah, you're looking at one on the screen now, and then her other sibling, the other male. And then there is another one that was born at Singita, and he's much older. There's something going on, I don't know if you can hear that, but one of the females, she just started contact calling, and I'm sure these cubs are all going to get up now and they'll follow the rest of the pride. I'm not sure where they're heading. They've chosen the perfect spot here. So nice for us to view them. And on this termite mound, all the grass is flattened around here. Lana, at what age do lion cubs learn how to hunt? So you can see them playing around here. Well, that one's got a stick now, wrestling each other to the ground like that white one just did, climbing the tree. So this is all helping them and preparing them for one day when they have to hunt with the pride, or even if they have to hunt by themselves. But I would say only at around a year, they can actually, let's say around 2 years, they'd be proper hunters. So these males, the males will leave the pride between 2 and 3 years of age. And then they kind of have to look after themselves. They have to hunt for themselves. So then they need to be proficient. Little sneeze there. Notice if you look at that white one, she doesn't have the black markings behind the ears like the others. She's got like this, it's like it's brown. And then also the tip of the tail. Not as dark. That one's still playing with the branch. And the young little one's also getting involved now. So there's about a year gap between the youngsters you can see on the screen now. So the one furthest to the right is about 5 months old, and then the others next to it, like I said, about 1.5 years, a year and 5 months actually. Right, most of them are getting up. We'll follow them and see where they're heading.
Well, we are still with Sibuyi's boy, and he is being an absolute treat. He's been messing about with a monitor lizard, but couldn't get to it because of all the brush packing on the dam wall. Now he's trying to eat flies. He's just being as cute as one could ever ask for, and is giving us the best show this afternoon, that's for sure. It's been amazing to spend time with him. I've been in my absolute element, that's for sure. Now he's going back down again in order to try and see. He's such a clown because the thatch that he's walking on, which has been laid there for the brush packing, hides the holes. So you can't actually see where he's walking. So he keeps falling into little holes and messing about and then tripping and then going after flies, going after lizards, doing all kinds of nonsense. So I'm going to try and just go forward a little bit. It's difficult to view him like this because he's down, up, down, up, down, up. But we'll try and just go slowly. I don't want to give him a fright by being on top of him. Interestingly enough, though, just now, he came and he was right next to the car and he was almost just watching us. Hello, boy, what you doing? Did we catch you messing about with the thatch? Look at that face. Is that not the face of a naughty boy? What you doing? That is trouble right there. I wonder if there's things that are inside the thatch that he likes to mess around with. So like, things like little mice or lizards or, random animals that are using the thatch as a home. And so when he comes here, there's just too much for him to look for. The other thing about thatch is that it's actually quite warm. It's insulating. And so I suppose lying on it is not only soft, but fairly warm too. Now you're going back down the hill again. We've just come from there. But he seems to be on his own little mission today. All right, let's go around. BK is making your life hard work today. He's all over the place. He's now gone back to where we came from. Okay, well, we'll try and catch up with him. Cute, though. Sure. Missed the antics of a young male leopard. It's been too long without this kind of shenanigans. And little Kalamba, she's so serious now, and obviously we haven't been seeing much of Tandi's little son, so it's been a bit of a young leopard drought in many respects, and particularly boys of this age, there's something about them that is just the best viewing and fun to follow. So I'm thoroughly enjoying my afternoon, that's for sure. Now, where has he gone? I last saw him walking down here. I know just now he was chasing Franklin's down here. All right, well, I've got to try and find him again. He seems to have vanished on us, so hopefully he hasn't gone too far.
So we had a close encounter with our dear friend Susan, who is becoming naughty again, so I shouted at her and told her that she's not allowed to behave like that. Now we're not talking to one another anymore. She's sulking in the corner and I'm sulking over here. But we're still just watching a few of the little elephants as they move around, and the herd moves around us. Look at that sweet little thing. It's funny because yesterday when we saw them, I was telling you how this youngster and the other little elephant in the herd, there's just the two of them that are a couple of months maybe apart. They're normally, stuck to one another, like side by side. And today is the first time that I haven't seen them together playing. It's interesting. It's starting to get a little bit dark now, so the light is, of course, fading. We're just enjoying all the elephants and the sounds. Rosalind, elephants are incredibly protective. I mean, obviously, a mother to its calf is on a whole nother level. But what we've been watching, and is so fascinating to me, and we've been lucky to have had it live, is this my favorite elephant, this young Ellie cow who hasn't had a calf yet, how protective she is of the little ones. So you might remember if you have watched before, but I don't know, maybe it was like 2 months ago or so now. I don't know, time is going so quickly, it's scary. And every time Susan sees a little elephant, she runs up to it. If the little one's going to the car, she's there and she's protecting it. She puts her trunk around it and she reassures that everything is okay. We'll probably see it happen in a minute because this cow and her calf are walking in her direction. And it happened with us now, where I had to reprimand Susan for being naughty. We do have to do these things. Sometimes elephants like to cross the line. I obviously try not to let that happen, but some are a bit cheekier than others. And another little elephant came running out to her as if to say, "Oh, are you okay?" And then she gave it a big cuddle, and then the little elephant mock charged us. She told on us. She said that blonde lady there, she shouted at me. Taylor shouted at me, and probably told lies. But Susan started it. I just finished it. Sorry, let me move out of the way. I'm hoping that it happens just so you can see. But when there is trouble in the herd, it's quite spectacular to see how they're all bound together, and they will support one another no matter what. So if one picks up, say, the scent of a predator and it happens to be close by and it causes a stir, even if the others don't know what's going on, they automatically form this incredible protective circle, and all the little ones will just be safely amongst all the adults.
What is also spectacular is this little boy and how he's now sniffing around. He's, I think, catching the scent of where this buffalo was. So the one that was injured was standing right where he's sniffing at the moment. So maybe there's a few little droplets of blood. And you see how he's phlegm and grimacing. So maybe even another leopard that has defecated there. It's interesting. But he just doesn't sit still. Every time he sits down and you kind of watch him for 2 minutes, then something else catches his attention. He's definitely got ADD. This afternoon. He doesn't know where to sit, what to do, what to look at, what to chase, where to groom. He's just unsure at this stage. What is good, though, is that it's been really interesting watching his behavior over the afternoon towards us as a vehicle. So initially, when we first arrived, a little unsure, a little bit like, not really that fond of this big thing with an aerial that sticks up off the back of the car. And slowly as the afternoons got on, he started to come a lot closer. He's been a lot calmer with our kind of presence. He hasn't worried too much about where we've driven or what we've done, which has been really nice to see. So it just goes to show how important it is just to spend time with these guys and not to rush around them and to give them the little bit of space that they need. What is your next trick going to be, though? I think he's just looking for anything to entertain himself. I think he's just bored more than anything else. It's that time of the day when leopards are quite active, and I think boredom has set in. And so now it's about investigating, playing, figuring out anything and everything about the landscape that he lives in. And of course, he would have had his sister, the little girl, would have been a big playmate for a long period of time. But because he's spending more time on his own, he's now got to basically fend for himself and kind of occupy his own mind, which is, or keep his own mind occupied, should I say, which is a lot harder than when you've got a sibling which you are bigger and stronger that you can bully. So now it's more about just finding sticks and birds and various other things. All right, let's try catch up with him because he's drifting away a little bit now. Okay, well, hopefully he's not going to go too much further that way because there's a lot of water there and we won't be able to head in that direction, but we'll try and keep up for as long as we can because the show has just been
All right, nice bird in frame here. The wonderful sharp call from this bird actually got our attention, and I slammed on the brakes, almost chucking David off, but he's still here, all limbs, I think. Yeah, all still here. Red-crested Koran, Korhaan, really beautiful bird. And one feature about this bird that just blows my mind is the pattern on the back or the dorsal section of this bird. Look at that intricate pattern. That allows this bird just to blend in with the grassy environment, obviously spending a lot of time on the ground. And it looks like it's picking off insects from this flowering boskia or shepherd's tree. Very beautiful tree in this area, and we will take a look at it further down the line. But myself and David are really trying to locate a spot. I mentioned in the very beginning that these birds display from a loose leak system. Forget about that. They display from very prominent sites. So a male will have a specific site that he displays from, and they're starting to call every day more and more. And we're trying to locate a spot where we can put down roots, and myself and David hopefully are going to catch this bird in display. Remarkable display. I've mentioned before the rocket display, and this is the action at which this bird would do to impress the ladies. They also refer to as the suicide display. The bird flying vertically 20 to 30 meters up in the air, and as it reaches its peak, it rolls to its back and falls to the floor just before hitting the ground, opening up the wings.
She does something, and then
I'm giggling because this little guy tried to just chase a monitor lizard, and it went splashing into the water, and he almost went with it into the water, which would have been a very unhappy cat had he ended up plopping down below into a very marshy, very dirty little puddle that is sitting here. So I think he's quite glad that he managed to hold on. But you see, he's trying to work out where to go from here now. How does he get down to where these monitors are going? But unfortunately, you're not aquatic, which means that you're not going to be able to go in. The amazing part about this sighting is it feels almost a bit like deja vu, because I've seen Tamba and Hosanna on that exact same branch that he's sitting on right now, doing the exact same thing, looking out into the water to try and figure out how to get to these various creatures that live down below. There's obviously terrapins and lizards, and often there's even birds. There's the night heron as well. So above him, in the branches, I don't know if you can see, go up a little bit for me, a little bit further. You should see a night heron in those branches. Now, we don't see the night herons often, but there's a pair that nests behind you. Up a little bit further, BK, in the middle of your screen. There we go, in the middle, to the left slightly, up a little bit. There it is, straight in the middle now. See the light grey bird there. There we go. So that is a night heron. You find them... They're tricky birds to find because they're quite shy, quite reclusive, quite secretive individuals. They don't really like to be seen. And so this little area behind this dam wall is the perfect place for these night herons to live. And we get two types of night herons in this area. We get the black-crowned night heron, which is the one that you're looking at the moment. And then you get the white-backed night heron. The white-backed is the rarer of the two, so this one is an easier bird to find. But in this particular part of the world, this is the only two that I know of are the ones that live behind this dam wall. So you don't see them on Djuma at all. We only see them here on Chitwa, and I haven't seen them for a while because we very seldom come behind the dam wall these days. There's a new part of the lodge that's been built, so it's not an area we drive much. But they're pretty much guaranteed if you drive in this particular area, and they've been hunted, like I say, by multiple different leopards. I've seen 3 different leopards try and eat these particular night herons, but they're pretty quick and got big eyes and are able generally to avoid predation. Our boy is watching every now and then up towards that area, and he's got absolutely no chance. There we go. He's now peering back down into the water. What an amazing afternoon it's been with this little guy. I've enjoyed myself so much. He's such a little character. I obviously haven't spent time with him, but everybody's been telling me that he's a cool leopard to spend time with, and well, he certainly has made an impression this evening. Now I'm intrigued to see how he comes back. Don't fall into the water. Oh. It's like a bit of tightrope balancing at this stage. You can see how the tail is actually moving in the hips to try and balance him. Well, unfortunately, it's that time, though, where we need to say goodbye to all of you. I hope that you've had the most wonderful afternoon with us. It's been a pleasure bringing you all these different locations from across Africa. So from all of us, it's a very good evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning for our sunrise safari.